Alrighty then. This topic is going to be about the first time you had some pork. This is Kessa, your resident atheist. Me and my kid, we just decided to have a conversation on the first time we ever had some pork. I was kind of raised up on pork, so I grew up in the country. And my grandfather, he lived on the farm, so I mean, we used to slop them pigs, and I knew what that was. I grew up eating pig ears, ham hocks, what else? Bacon, salt bacon, all that shit. Grew up on a farm where the man slaughtered his stuff, brought it home, and we ate that shit. So, Abby, when was the first time you had some bacon?
The first time I had bacon was in 1980. I want to say 80, probably 88 or 89. I worked at Burger King, and when you make like bacon double cheeseburgers and shit like that, they had like the little strips of bacon you put in the microwave and put on a sandwich. And I used to be fucking that bacon up, even though I was Muslim and I was ignorant. I didn't even know, that shit it was so delicious. To be honest with you, it didn't even dawn on me I wasn't supposed to be eating that shit. But like my queen said, she, even though she's from a mega metropolitan city, Houston, but it's out in the West. Me being from the East Coast, I was born in New York, but I'm raised on the East Coast, up and down the East Coast. My mother's side of the family's from Charleston, but you already know that the East Coast got way more accelerated, industrialized than the rest of the country. So the farming and all of that, it got so industrial so fast that the farming and things of that nature that we grew up on as a nation, it went to shit once it got industrialized. So being that I was born in New York and my mother was a Black Panther and a Black Panther sympathizer, whatever you want to call her, she instructed my grandmother not to feed me pork. So the first time I had pork was Spam, where my grandmother would never feed me pork. I never had pork in my grandmother's household. Let me put that on record. One day my grandmother was at work, and I came home from school, and I used to eat mayonnaise sandwiches and whatever she left out for me to eat when I came home from school. But for some reason, that goddamn blue can was just so tempting that I just had to explore that damn Spam can, and I ate that shit. And right there on 164th and Walton Avenue, I thought I was gonna have a fucking heart attack. I mean, I was clutching my chest. I thought I was gonna die at a young age. I'm like, man, what the fuck is it? I ate the whole can by myself raw. And it was, I don't even remember if it was delicious or not, but I mean, it had to be good because I ate the whole can, but I thought I was going to die. And that was my lesson at that moment. Like, yo, you got to be careful. I didn't know it was pork or what, but, in hindsight, yeah, I knew it was pork. And then, but I got adopted by my aunt, and her husband were living in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So I was down in the South, and there was a pork culture. And before he became Muslim, they were dealing with a pork diet. So my aunt used to make her husband pork chops and, cook the things that he liked. And so I had pork chops maybe 2 or 3 times. I had ham maybe once. Chitlins twice. Once or twice, I remember we was at his sister's house, and he was just say, oh, she making some chitlins, and I never even knew what that was. And I had it, and I don't know, I don't even remember what it tastes like or nothing. But I'm just saying all that to say that with the whole pork thing, it was definitely interesting. But I'm gonna tell you that bacon, I was fucking that shit up. I mean, yeah, I was fast forward all the way to, like I say, about 1990. What was that? 80. 88, 80, 88, 89. I know I was at least, I started working at Burger King. I think I was either a sophomore or a junior in high school. For people, shout out to my Eastern American high school brothers and sisters, everybody who went to a DODDS school. I was working at the Burger King over there at the near the Eastern PX, and man, I used to be fucking that bacon up in there.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. Well,
but yeah, so now what's interesting, I want to ask you. Houston is like Philadelphia or Chicago as far as city. How in the hell did you grow up on pork like that?
Excuse me? I grew up in the country, 100 miles away from here.
Oh, okay.
That's different. I was born in Houston. My mom loved Houston so much, she would never stay in her hometown. She would leave us in the country, and when my grandparents found out that we were all alone, and they were like, oh, Junior left them kids, and you need to go get them, and my grandfather went to go get us, and we'd spend our time in Munford, Texas.
I got you.
I mean, growing up, and plus, even growing up here in Houston, I still didn't get knowledge of not eating bacon until I was much older. You know, I must have been at least, of course, in the Bible tell you not to eat swine. You know, I was raised as a Christian, but at the end of the day, you know, that doesn't take away. People eat pork here like crazy.
Well, in all fairness, not to cut you, but in all fairness, because I was just talking to my aunt yesterday. She lived in New York for almost 50 years, and she lives in Charleston, South Carolina now, but she still eats pork. So it's not an East Coast, West Coast, whatever thing, it's a country city thing. As black people, we are trained to consume pork. I guess I was just quote unquote blessed because my mother, for whatever reason, even though she couldn't take care of me, but she left instructions to her mother to say, hey, you have custody of my son. Please just don't, maybe she knew that my life was going to be so unique without having a father that she was like, well, just give him the best opportunity to whatever. And
right.
So my one thing I will say about my grandmother, she honored her daughter's wishes by trying to raise me with her wisdom, but
right.
to respect her daughter's wishes. Okay, well, this is her child. Because hell, I wasn't the only grandchild raised with my grandmother up in the Bronx, and a lot of us came through the Grandmama and Granddaddy Academy over there, and their upbringing was way different from mine. But I had a reign in that household of my own for a long period of time, where it was almost like I was that one grandchild that benefited the most out of that situation, because either certain people were just too set in their ways, or they were too street or too involved, and they didn't get the wisdom that I got from being in that household. And maybe that was from the spark of my grandmother. From my mother telling my grandparents, hey, just kind of hold them down in this way. But as far as the whole pork thing, and shout out to my man Jamil Akeem. Something deep I never forget that he said when somebody was building with him, and they was like, oh, you're pork and this, that, and the third, and he was like, motherfucker, you got pork all on your body. And the dude was like, what you talking about? He's like, yo, man, you got the dye in your clothes that's on the biggest organ on your body. And when he said that, it blew my mind. Pork is in everything.
Yep. Pork
is in everything.
It's in everything. You don't know what these people are putting in your food. Real talk. No, I was raised on pork from the beginning. That was just something country folks did. But no, I was just cracking up on that chitlin story, because first time I ever had chitlins, and when I was married to my ex-husband, I may have been in maybe in my 20s. That was the first time I ever had it, the first time I ever cooked it. And I was just not impressed with it. Let's just say that. I wasn't impressed with, but I only did it because, of course, being a wife, you have to try to please your husband. You have to learn how to cook these things that his family traditionally did around the holidays. So, of course, on New Year's, people would eat the green beans, greens, black eyed peas for New Year's for good luck. Isn't that the reason why you ate it? Nope. Yeah, if you ever notice, a lot of people on New Year's, they eat black eyed peas for luck. And normally, of course, my people would throw some pig ears, some ham hocks, and the black eyed peas. And the shit was delicious. Real talk, the shit was delicious. I ain't gonna even front. Don't miss it, though. Don't miss it. Don't miss it. But, no, I just wanted to talk about, if anybody out there want to share their story. When was the first time you ate some pork? Did it make you sick? What happened? And why did you stop eating pork? Let's talk about it. Let's have that real conversation. Anything you want to end with?
Nah, I'm cool. But it's funny you said, here it is. I just put on a damn pot of black eyed peas, and it's close to New Year's.
Yeah.
But that ain't the reason why I made black eyed peas. But maybe it's something epigenetic in my DNA.
Nah, babe, you cook some damn good beans. I ain't gonna lie. I don't know about them little sausages at the bees, but I was wondering how come you didn't get any smoked turkey?
There's something in there.
Oh, for real? So you wasn't gonna cook that?
Not now.
Not now. Oh, okay. All righty then. All right, we'll talk about that. When was the first time you had some turkey? Psych. Peace.